Here's a quick one. Women are selling sex as a second job to cope with cost of living crisis. And this comes from, I don't even know what magazine this is from. Oh, MSN.com, okay. Outreach groups have observed a significant uptick in women entering the sex industry or returning to it after years away. Okay, women in the workplace are selling sex as a second job due to the cost of living, I has learned. As rising inflation, soaring energy bills, and real terms wage cuts gnaw away at household budgets, greater numbers of women have been left with no option but to turn to sex work to put food on the table, Outreach Group told I. There has been a significant uptick in single mothers, both women already holding down a primary job and others relying solely on universal credit, entering the sex industry or returning to it after managing to leave, the organization say. The type of work varies from adult phone lines and webcam performing for those with a laptop and a reliable internet connection to in-person escorting and selling sex on the street. The decision to sell sex is always motivated by economic need, said Rosie Hodson, a spokeswoman for sex worker safety charity National Ugly Mug. It's absolutely the case now, said Ms. Hodson, who was a sex worker herself. Ms. Hodson attributed the rising number of women entering the sex industry to the cost of living crisis, which began while the public was still feeling the strain of the COVID-19 pandemic. What I tell you, cost of living crisis is coming on top of COVID, pushing more people into financial need. A lot of people doing sex work are doing it alongside other jobs. The stagnation of wages is part of that as well, she said. Women are also trying to supplement benefits of years of freezes by selling sex, she added. Nikki Adams, a spokeswoman for the English Collective of Prostitutes, ECP, said it is definitely true that the cost of living crisis has driven more women into sex work. Calls to the ECP from women seeking advice have risen about a third in recent months, Ms. Adams said. Many of the calls are from people who have recently entered the industry for the first time, but a large proportion are from women going back to sex workers who had been able to leave but are now drowning in debt and unable to pay their mortgages. Others have really basic survival expenses they cannot afford. People add up the bills and their wage just isn't covering it. The energy bills have already gone up. There's just no slack because the wages in other jobs traditionally done by women are very low, especially for moms, while the cost of childcare is extraordinary, Ms. Adams said. Since November 2020, British wages have stagnated with their average weekly wages, including bonuses, hovering between £593 and £600 between then and December 2021, according to data from the Office for National Statistics. Since the cost of living has rapidly risen with energy bills soaring, annual inflation reaching a 40-year high of 10.1% in August before dipping slightly to 9.9% in September. In the 3 months to July 2022, total pay, which includes bonuses, in the UK grew about 5.5%, while regular pay grew by 5.2%. When this was adjusted for inflation, however, total pay fell by 3.6%, and regular pay shrank by 3.9%, ONS figures show. Meanwhile, people claiming benefits such as universal credit are facing the biggest permanent real terms cut to the basic rate of benefits ever made in a single year, said the Joseph Rowntree Foundation, JFS has warned. Earlier this year, then Chancellor Rishi Sunak promised to raise universal credit and other working age benefits in line with inflation. However, Chancellor Kwasi Kwarteng has announced his intention to cut benefits to push more people into the workforce as part of the government's plan to make work pay. Now the Prime Minister is expected to increase benefits in line with average earnings at 5.4%, as opposed to inflation at just under 10%. Reneging on the promise to raise benefits in line with inflation as usual would be a hostile and harmful act of historic proportions, said Katie Schmucker, Principal Policy Advisor for the JRF. It's morally indefensible for a government who have chosen to target tax cuts at the richest to target spending cuts at those on the lowest incomes who are not responsible for the crisis. Yep. Told you. This is not the United States. It's actually the UK. But the thing is, it still holds. I think the UK, it actually gives more help to their citizens. But this is already can be seen, man, in any city. Any major city, you can see this already. In New York, it's off the chain. It is off the chain. So any major city where costs are going up, man, you're going to see chicks out there selling. A few months ago, man, I think I was going to get pizza for my grandson, right? And right across the street, man, there was a whole group of homeless chicks, man, out there selling coochie. All sitting right next to each other. So this is a thing. I've been, every time I go out, man, go to the store, man, I see the cashiers are a hell of a lot more friendly to black guys, to an old guy like me. They're smiling at me and said, like, baby, I'm not taking care of you. There's nothing that you have that I'm going to take care of. Okay. Those days have passed. You should have caught me 25 years ago. You might have had a shot. You might have had a shot at it. But right now, I don't need any extra burdens. And what you're bringing to the table is not enough. Okay. Not in these times. I can get an old chick for free. That simply can. I can get an old chick for free. I can get an old chick as a sponsor nowadays. I mean, basically, it's going to get to the point, man. It's like the crack era, man. At some point, man, it was easy. At some point, it was easier to buy sex than to have a girlfriend. It's easier to buy sex. That's how low the price had gotten. If you just wanted sex, you wanted a quick hit. It was easier to screw every day than to have a girlfriend. Just hit the block. Okay? Just hit the block. I mean, you had a girlfriend for other reasons than just sex. And back then in the 80s, black girls didn't give blowjobs like that. They didn't. It was much more rare for a black girl, especially young black women, to actually give head back then. Now it's not that big a deal. I mean, you millennials and you Zs, it's like at the top of the menu. But back then it was much harder to get, man. It was just, chick said, I don't suck dick, I'll be right back. $5 later, you done had your blowjob and you back. Okay, so like I said, it's headed that way. And the thing is that during the crack era, chicks were out there, but they're out there not necessarily for financial reasons. I mean, they needed their hit. Sometimes there's a whole bunch of reasons they're out there. But the thing is now, this economic crisis, man, the economic crisis, I'm sure the professional hoes are complaining, man, because they have a whole bunch of chicks undercutting their price. So this is actually gonna get ridiculous. Okay, it's gonna get ridiculous. It's just starting to work its way through the system. We're just at the beginning. It was just the beginning of the coffee girl era. It's gonna get much, much worse unless Biden and the Democrats can turn this economic thing around. Man, Katie bar the door. Katie bar the door. It's gonna be much harder for men to take on a woman. It's gonna be much harder for women to get married. You think marriage rates are bad now? It's going to be in a toilet. I mean, in a toilet. Let it hit, because the men getting married for sex, that won't be the reason. And once guys kind of let go of their blue pill conditioning, which I do see coming, I'm going to predict it right here. A lot of these blue pill guys, a lot of these incels, this shit's going to disappear. Going to disappear because guys are actually going to go from blue pill to red to black. And they won't have to travel for cheap sex. Cheap sex will be here. In fact, in the next year or so, they won't even talk about travel bros traveling for sex, because that'll be too expensive. And sex will be cheaper here. Sex will be much cheaper here. In fact, sex is going to go down. That's like they're trying to bait you in with that soft girl shit. They're trying to bait you. So what I'm saying is, like I said, this is coming. They're just starting to admit this. And as soon as enough chicks actually saturate the freaking system with this kind of stuff, it's actually gonna it's actually gonna go ballistic. I think it's gonna be worse, because back then it was just the black community doing this, and maybe a sprinkling of others, right? Now it's gonna be all communities, because it's not drug based, it's gonna be economic. I'm sure the drugs will play a part in it. When people get miserable, the drugs will hit the streets again, but right now it's gonna be economic. I think it's already economic. And these chicks that have to work to survive are miserable. They're miserable. And it's already happening. Why do you think Walmart, Target, and all these people are returning shit, man, are canceling orders because people can't afford that shit. people are barely affording food. And during the winter, when they had to pay all those energy bills, just like they're doing in Europe, man, Katie barred the door. That's all I'm saying, man. Buckle up. Don't take on chicks that are sketchy just because they're available. Man, you have to do your due diligence, because I'm going to have a lot of predatory chicks out there, and you don't want to get eaten. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace.